Welcome to the Fighter Index, MMA's unofficial fighter scoring system. In this video, we're breaking down a really interesting bantamweight matchup between former UFC champion Sean O'Malley and the steadily rising Aiemann Zahabi. O'Malley brings elite range striking, timing, and one of the sharpest counter games in the division, while Zahabi is a disciplined, well-coached veteran who relies on patience, clean fundamentals, and smart decision-making to stay competitive in tough fights. This matchup is all about contrast. O'Malley thrives in creating damage from distance and punishing mistakes, while Zahabi looks to slow things down, stay composed, and force opponents into a more measured fight. We're going to break down their archetypes, best weapons, strengths and weaknesses, score all 4 pillars across the Fighter Index, map out the key fight dynamics, identify each fighter's path to victory, and see who holds the edge when the numbers come together for the Fighter Index composite score at the end of the video. Sean O'Malley is an A-tier counter-striker and is built around range control, precision, and making opponents pay for every bad entry. He wins by managing distance with his length, drawing reactions, and landing clean counters before opponents can settle into offense. His striking is built around timing rather than pressure, and when he controls the pace, he becomes one of the hardest bantamweights in the division to approach safely. His archetype works consistently against high-level competition, but defensive wrestling questions keep him just below S-tier. Aiemann Zahabi is a B-tier technical counter-striker and is built around patience, discipline, and forcing opponents to overextend into clean counters. He wins by staying composed, making reads, and taking advantage of mistakes rather than creating chaos himself. His boxing is sharp, his defense is responsible, and he performs best when fights stay technical and measured. He's dangerous and reliable, but without the same fight-changing weapons or elite consistency against top contenders, he fits best in the B-tier archetype. Sean O'Malley's best weapon is his ability to draw opponents forward and punish entries with sharp pull counters. His timing makes reckless pressure extremely dangerous. His second weapon is his jab, which controls distance, sets rhythm, and forces opponents to react rather than build offense. It's the foundation of how he manages striking exchanges. His third weapon is when opponents shoot recklessly or rush forward. O'Malley uses the intercept knee to punish level changes and break aggressive entries instantly. Aiemann Zahabi's best weapon is that he uses the check hook well against forward pressure, punishing opponents who rush entries without defensive awareness. His second best weapon is his straight right. It's clean, compact, and effective when opponents overcommit. He uses it more through timing than power. His third best weapon is his footwork. Rather than standing in bad exchanges, Zahabi uses subtle movement and positioning to stay safe and reset fights back to his preferred range. Sean O'Malley's biggest strength is how easily he controls fights through range, timing, and precision without looking like he's forcing offense. He's extremely good at managing distance, drawing reactions, and making opponents pay the moment they overcommit trying to close space. What makes O'Malley especially dangerous is how calm and composed he stays during striking exchanges. He reads openings quickly, counters cleanly, and creates damaging moments with accuracy rather than reckless volume. His ability to land sharp shots while staying defensively responsible makes him one of the most difficult strikers in the division to pressure safely. His footwork and movement are also major weapons. O'Malley constantly resets angles, changes rhythm, and keeps opponents at the end of his shots, which makes it difficult for pressure fighters to comfortably enter range without exposing themselves to counters. He's also highly adaptable offensively. O'Malley can attack with straight punches, counters, kicks, and layered setups from long range, forcing opponents to constantly think about multiple threats instead of focusing on one pattern. O'Malley's biggest weaknesses usually appear when opponents successfully deny him space and force him into prolonged physical exchanges. His striking works best when he has room to manage distance and set traps, but pressure-heavy fighters who consistently back him toward the fence can disrupt the rhythm that makes him most effective. Wrestling and clinch pressure can also create difficult moments strategically. Extended grappling exchanges limit O'Malley's ability to comfortably strike at range, especially when opponents force him to spend energy defending instead of controlling distance offensively. Close range pressure can become another issue. O'Malley is most dangerous when exchanges happen at his preferred range. When opponents who stay disciplined, crowd a space, and force pocket exchanges can reduce some of the advantages created by his footwork and movement. Because so much of his game is built around timing and positioning, opponents who consistently force attritional, grinding fights can make it harder for him to maintain the clean striking flow his offense relies on. Aiemann Zahabi's biggest strength is how disciplined and composed he stays during fights. He rarely wastes movement, rarely forces reckless exchanges, and consistently makes opponents work hard for clean openings. His style is built around patience, positioning, and smart decision-making rather than chaos or explosive moments. What makes Zahabi effective is how fundamentally sound his striking is. He fights behind clean technique, solid timing, and strong defensive awareness, staying responsible during exchanges while looking for counters and small openings instead of overcommitting offensively. His composure also helps him slow fights down strategically. Zahabi is very good at making opponents fight at a more measured pace, disrupting rhythm and turning exchanges into technical battles rather than emotional firefights. Against aggressive opponents, that calmness becomes one of his most important tools. Defensively, he's difficult to break down cleanly over time. Zahabi stays patient under pressure, maintains structure well, and usually avoids putting himself in dangerous positions unnecessarily, which allows him to stay competitive in close technical fights. Zahabi's biggest weaknesses usually appear when opponents create major gaps in speed, explosiveness, or physical danger. His game is built around patience and technical consistency, but elite athletes who suddenly create damage often force him into reacting instead of comfortably controlling the pace himself. He also carries less finishing threat than many top bantamweights. Zahabi is more focused on winning exchanges cleanly and staying defensively responsible than overwhelming opponents with volume or knockout pressure, which means he often needs longer fights and cleaner rounds to build momentum. Range control can also become difficult against elite movement strikers. When opponents establish distance first and force Zahabi to chase exchanges, it can become harder for him to comfortably set counters and dictate rhythm. Because his style is built around a measured pace and technical structure, opponents who consistently pressure forward, force faster exchanges, or create sudden damaging moments can make it difficult for him to regain momentum once the fight starts slipping away from him strategically. Now it's time to break these fighters down using the Fighter Index Scale. We break down each phase of the fight and score each skill to better understand the strengths and the weaknesses of a fighter's game. All Fighter Index scores are based on a scale of 1 to 10. Scores are subjective and can change as the fighter evolves from fight to fight. Here's how the Fighter Index works. Each fighter is evaluated across 4 pillars made up of 4 key skills. Every skill is scored on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 represents a non-functional ability and 10 represents a rare or generational skill. Everything in between reflects a fighter's level in that area. At the end of the video, the scores are combined to calculate the Fighter Index Composite score to see who is the more complete fighter. Pillar 1, Fight IQ and Athletic Tools. In Fight IQ, Sean O'Malley and Aiemann Zahabi score an 8. Both fighters are patient, make smart reads, and generally avoid wasting movement or forcing bad exchanges. O'Malley uses that IQ more through range management and counters, while Zahabi leans on discipline and defensive responsibility. Athleticism is where the first major gap shows up. O'Malley holds a clear edge with a 9 compared to Zahabi's 6. His speed, reaction time, and ability to create offense from awkward angles give him a big advantage, especially in open striking exchanges. Zahabi is functional athletically, but he relies far more on timing and positioning than physical explosiveness. In stamina, Sean also leads with an 8 to Zahabi's 7. He's more comfortable maintaining pace and movement over longer stretches, especially when the fight stays at striking range. The one category Zahabi takes is resolve, scoring an 8 to Sean's 7. His toughness and willingness to stay composed through difficult moments give him a slight edge there, especially in slower grinding fights. Overall, Pillar 1 favors Sean O'Malley because the athletic gap combined with the edge and pace and movement gives him more tools to control how the fight plays out. Pillar 2, Striking and Stand-Up Defense. In striking, Sean O'Malley holds a clear edge with a 9 compared to Zahabi's 7. Zahabi is clean and disciplined on the feet, but O'Malley's range, timing, creativity, and counter-striking give him a higher ceiling in exchanges. In the clinch, they're even at 6. Neither fighter is at their best when the fight gets tied up, though both can work there when needed. Striking defense also leans towards Sean with an 8 to Zahabi's 7. Zahabi is defensively responsible, but O'Malley's distance management and footwork make him harder to touch clean at range. Chin is also even at 7, so durability doesn't really separate the matchup here. Overall, Pillar 2 favors Sean O'Malley because his striking is more dangerous, more dynamic, and better supported by his ability to manage distance defensively. Pillar 3, Grappling and Control. This is a much closer pillar with neither fighter built around dominant offensive grappling, but small differences matter. Starting with wrestling, both Sean O'Malley and Aiemann Zahabi score a 6. Neither fighter relies heavily on wrestling as a primary weapon, but both are capable enough to defend themselves and then mix it up when they need to. Takedown offense is also even at 5. Neither man is consistently looking to build his game around takedowns, and most of their success comes from striking rather than forcing the fight to the mat. Top control is where Zahabi gets the slight edge, scoring a 6 compared to Sean's 5. If the fight does hit the ground, Zahabi is a bit more reliable in settling position and controlling exchanges, rather than just using the mat as a transition point. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they're even at 6. Both are functional and capable, but neither brings a major submission threat that changes the entire matchup. Because of that small edge in top control and his slightly stronger ability to manage grounded positions, Pillar 3 slightly favors Aiemann Zahabi. Pillar 4, Defense, Scrambles, and Ground Survival. This is another close area with both fighters showing similar defensive tools. Starting with takedown defense, both Sean O'Malley and Aiemann Zahabi score a 7. Neither guy is easy to take down consistently, and both are capable of keeping the fight standing when they need to. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu defense, they're even at 7. Both are aware enough on the ground to stay safe and avoid major mistakes. Off the back is also even at 5, so neither fighter is especially dangerous from bottom position or likely to build their offense from there. The only real separation comes in Scrambles, where Sean scores a 7 compared to Zahabi's 6. His length, athleticism, and ability to create space give him the slight edge where positions start to open up. Overall, Pillar 4 slightly favors Sean O'Malley because he has the small advantages in Scrambles, while the rest of the defensive categories are even. This matchup is a battle between elite range striking and disciplined counterboxing. Sean O'Malley wants space, timing, and clean reads where his length and precision can slowly take over the fight. Aiemann Zahabi wants a slower, more measured fight where he can stay defensively responsible, avoid big mistakes, and punish over-aggression with counters. In Pillar 1, Zahabi's composure and patience help him stay competitive in technical fights, but O'Malley's athleticism, reactions, and ability to create sharp openings give him more tools in open striking exchanges. The biggest thing to watch for is whether Zahabi can slow the pace down enough to keep the fight tactical. Pillar 2. This is the defining pillar of the matchup. O'Malley's range control, pull counters, and long-distance striking make him the more dangerous and dynamic striker overall, while Zahabi's defense and disciplined boxing are designed to keep fights close and technical. The key question is whether Zahabi can consistently enter range without giving O'Malley the clean reads he wants. Pillar 3. Grappling is an important secondary factor because it can change the rhythm of the striking exchanges. O'Malley wants space and separation, while Zahabi can benefit from clinch work and slowing the fight down physically if the striking becomes too dangerous at range. Pillar 4. The biggest thing to watch in transitions is who resets range first after exchanges break apart. O'Malley is most dangerous when he can quickly reclaim distance and force opponents back into long-range striking, while Zahabi benefits if he can keep the fight tight and deny those clean resets. Now we look at each fighter's path to victory based on what we learned from the 4 pillars. Sean O'Malley's path to victory centers on keeping the fight at his range and forcing Aiemann Zahabi to deal with speed and precision he can't comfortably match. Sean holds a clear edge in striking with a 9 compared to Zahabi's 7, so the goal is to make this a clean kickboxing fight where he can control distance and punish entries. With a 9 in athleticism compared to Zahabi's 6, Sean should use movement, angles, and footwork to keep Zahabi resetting instead of letting him settle into a slower, more physical fight. Zahabi is at his best when he can stay patient and close the gap without taking damage, so Sean needs to break that rhythm early with sharp counters, quick exits, and constant range management. He also has to avoid getting stuck in extended clinch or top control situations where Zahabi's slight grappling edge can matter more. If O'Malley keeps the fight standing, stays first in exchanges, and forces Zahabi to chase him, the matchup starts to heavily favor his striking. Aiemann Zahabi's path to victory centers on closing distance, slowing the pace, and taking away the open space where Sean O'Malley is most dangerous. O'Malley has the clear edge in athleticism with a 9-6 and striking 9-7, so Zahabi can't let this become a long-range kickboxing match where Sean can control the timing. Zahabi needs to pressure carefully, cut off movement, and force O'Malley into clinch exchanges or grounded positions. His best grappling edge is top control, where he scores a 6 compared to Sean's 5, so if he can get on top, he can make those moments count by holding position and slowing Sean's movement. For Zahabi, this fight is about patience, pressure, and making the matchup more physical. If he can crowd O'Malley, limit the space, and keep him from freely striking at range, he gives himself a real path to make this competitive. Now, when you total everything across the 4 pillars, the numbers show Sean O'Malley with a clear but not overwhelming edge in overall completeness. Sean O'Malley comes in with a fighter index composite score of 6.9, while Aiemann Zahabi lands at 6.5. The difference mostly comes from Sean's advantages in athleticism, striking, and his ability to control distance. His speed, range management, and cleaner stand-up game give him more ways to dictate where the fight takes place and how exchanges happen. Zahabi's score stays competitive because of his discipline, toughness, and small advantages in areas like top control and resolve, which give him a real path if he can turn the fight into something slower and more physical. So while the fighter index favors O'Malley as more dangerous and dynamic striker at range, Zahabi's path is built around disrupting the rhythm and forcing a completely different kind of fight. And that's the full breakdown for Sean O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi using the fighter index. This matchup really comes down to space. If O'Malley can keep the fight at range, his speed, timing, and striking should take over, but if Zahabi can close that distance and make it physical, he has a real chance to change the fight. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think takes it? And is there a skill that you'd score differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's break it down. Thanks for watching, and if you're enjoying these breakdowns, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fighter index analysis. Catch you on the next one.